Quick question before we start. Have you ever messaged someone, then the reply doesn't come straight away, and your stomach drops, and then your brain decides that the relationship is over? Yeah, then you're in the right place.
You're listening to the Spacious Brain podcast, where real neurodivergent humans with real jobs and real daily chaos overshare with pride. Minus the glossy, my ADHD is my superpower nonsense. Hi, I'm Noemi, a scientist, a neurodiversity coach. Yes, someone who will absolutely derail into a story from when I was 12 because I'm ADHD and tangents are my love language. If you ever felt alone or felt like the Temu version of neurodivergent because you're not an entrepreneur, not a CEO, and you forget to eat and drink on the same day, you're in the right place. Let's keep this real.
In this episode, I'm joined by Gwen. Gwen has a background in mental health, a combined ADHD diagnosis, and a beautifully nonlinear career that spans psychology, creativity, and tech. In this episode, we talk about late diagnosis, unmasking, rejection sensitivity, burnout, and what it really means to build a life that fits your brain. Hi, Gwen. Welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Hi, Naomi. Thank you for having me.
I will start with the usual first question, which is who is Gwen?
Oh, Gwen, I don't know. She is, I was going to say hardworking. You know what? I've practiced my pitch, but this is totally not a pitch with the question. So I have been in the mental health field for a couple of years. I really love helping people. And currently, I am also delving into coding and creating my own project, which is based on something I really love doing, which is combining outfits. So the web application generates outfits for you based on your clothes.
When did you get your diagnosis and why did you seek one?
I got my diagnosis about 3 years ago, and at the time, I was studying my master's in psychology, and I was also doing a short course on understanding mental health problems. And that's when I came across ADHD properly for the first time. And I was looking at the symptoms and I was like, oh, this looks familiar. And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, okay, this is probably something that is me. So I got in touch with the GP, asked for a referral, and I got the diagnosis of combined AD.
And when you were diagnosed, what was your immediate reaction? What parts of your life suddenly made more sense, especially those around management of the daily tasks?
Immediately, I was just like, that makes sense. Yes. Okay. But it was more of a gradual thing because then after I got the stamp of the professional, then I was able to fully accept it and be like, okay, this is what it is. So then I looked into all the traits and then looked back at my life and be like, oh, so this is why you did this and this is why you did this. And it made me feel better about myself in the sense that I used to berate myself all the time, like, oh, why did you do this? And why did you do that? But at least now I knew, oh, it's just because my brain is wired differently. And it's okay. On daily tasks, I'm just kinder to myself now. So I could, be on the way to do the dishes and see something else in between and get stuck there for half an hour. And now I'll just, realize what I'm doing and be like, okay, and then move on.
Self-acceptance. Yeah. It's something that is recurrent with us that have been diagnosed late. And I think it's an amazing journey. It's something that we haven't learned as children because we were going there. Like, I want to ask you, how How were you as a child? What do you remember about your childhood?
I don't have many memories from my childhood. I remember I was very active. I had extracurricular activities. It was always something sporty, and that changed every 1 to 3 years, which when I got diagnosed made complete sense. The only thing that stayed consistent, and because partly my parents didn't let me stop, was music and piano, which was great, and I really liked it. But lessons, made it a bit hard because you couldn't really play what you wanted to play. You
Yeah.
had to stick with a curriculum.
I find it interesting this thing about music because you say that and I relate to that a lot because when I was young I had lots of hobbies and again they changed constantly, lots of different sports. I think I tried all of them, but music was another constant in my life too. Like I studied as a singer for 15 years and on the side, like a lot of musical instruments just gravitated around it. What music fell for you? Like, what was it for you that, you said that was your parents that didn't make you stop, but there is an element, I think, that for us, it's really grounding in music. So I want to know, was it the same for you?
I really liked music, and I went to a musical high school as well. So there I did 2 more musical instruments and choir, and I also did, writing music.
Uh-huh.
It's tough because I really enjoyed it, and the pieces that I really liked playing, I felt a deep connection to when I was playing. But then the other half was like, I want to experiment more and go outside of the box and not just play classical music, but that wasn't seen as something you could do then. And I didn't have anything that could show me how to step outside of the box, so I just stayed in the box.
Yeah. And this is, I think it's really interesting because there is a lot when it comes to neurodivergence about the school system, right? And just how that is completely unfit for neurodivergent minds because the topics that we're not interested in, there is no way in hell that we are going to do that. Like, we're going to leave them on the side, but give us something that we're interested in, and that's it. We can thrive and we can be amazing at that. So, I think the analogy that it comes to mind when we talk about music is that they want us to be classical musicians, while in reality, we're all jazz musicians. We're always finding that thing that is completely changing the rules, right? And it's probably that. And that's why I liked singing because it was your own interpretation. It didn't matter what the song was. You could make it your own. You could put your own flavor in it. And I think when you don't have like a very rigid curriculum, that can really help. And I don't know, for me, it really quieted my brain. I don't know if it was the same for you.
Yeah, true. Now that you say it, I hadn't realized it. That did happen. But also, what I remembered was that because we lived in a apartment and we had this grand piano in the apartment. So whenever I was studying, everybody could hear me. But everybody used to be like, "Oh, you play the piano so well and stuff." But it also really made me not try anything else. And whenever I made a mistake, I was very conscious that everybody's hearing this mistake. So it was an extra reason why I wouldn't try anything by myself. Just like, to play impromptu stuff or just try and make my own song. I think I did it once and that was it.
Yeah, the RSD side might have been too harsh.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to go back a bit about you as a child. You said you were very active. Do you remember, because you said that you're combined ADHD. Do you remember also as a child the inattentive part or just more the hyperactive side?
I do remember not being able to study subjects that I didn't like, especially as I was growing older. When I was younger, I think there was still the fear of, oh, I've got to do well. But then gradually, I still wanted to do well, but I just didn't care as much. I
Yeah.
was like, I just can't make myself learn history. Which is very interesting, and it was very annoying to me because I was like, well, if we had a better teacher, maybe I would learn it if it wasn't so boring.
And how was your social life growing up? Without knowing that you were ADHD, how did you feel with friendships and like relationships in general?
I always had this anxiety of, do people like me? And I was always looking for evidence, but even if I did see it, it wasn't enough. I was like, "Oh, that could just happen." And I used to think these very morbid thoughts of like, oh, I wonder if I was an accident, like who would care? Who'd come to see me? I'm really self-conscious about myself. Maybe looking back now, maybe it was feeling a bit out of place, that I didn't really connect with other people. Um, and I was always the kind of the I wouldn't say the odd kid out, but I definitely was different in the sense that I came from a mixed background. So my mum is British and my dad's Greek, growing up in Athens when it wasn't really common to have, different nationalities. So I remember the first, usually around September time, when they would read out, the register for the first time and they'd come across my name and be like, oh, so where are you from? And every time I'd be like, oh my God, can you just not?
And looking now with, the ADHD lens, is there anything that you understood more about you, about the younger version of you?
When I finished high school, after a year, I think I started dance. And I really, really liked that. And I was like, oh, why didn't I do this growing up? And if I had done this growing up, I would have, been like a professional dancer now and everything. But then again, now knowing if I went back, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it, which is crazy because I did enjoy everything I did. And that has kind of kept into my adult life, but I never went deep enough. And
Mm.
I always wished I could be able to go deeper in things and learn more. But it's just like a switch flips one day, and it's like, "Okay, I'm done. What's the next thing?"
And how does that make you feel? The constant switch. Is it something that in the end, is it consuming, draining, or is it something that always gives you that excitement about novelty, or both?
I always get the excitement with something new. Sometimes I dread me falling out of love with it. Like, for example, I really like sewing. I've made very few clothes for myself, but I did really fear this. I was like, I've bought the sewing machine, I've bought this, I've bought that. Will I just one day not find this interesting? I haven't done any sewing for a year, but I think I consciously did less than I would so that I didn't lose interest quickly.
I see. And I want to briefly go back to the moment that you were diagnosed. Did they suggest any medication? Did you take it? What was your journey there?
So, yes, they said I could do medication or some form of coaching. And I said, yes, I would like to try medication. At the time, I was just beginning my thesis for my master's. And I was like, oh, I really hope this would help. And I had heard of, many people taking medication. And from the first day being like, this changed my mind. But it wasn't a pleasant experience for two reasons. One, psychiatrist that was assigned to me wasn't very good at communicating. And there was this whole thing, and I made a complaint, and it was just, it just made the whole process a bit unpleasant. And on the other hand, I did try the medication. I only gave it a go for 3 weeks. First half, I felt super, super jittery and with all this excess energy. And then the other half, I just felt depressed. And by that time, I did have a new psychiatrist, and she said that, I could try other medication and they had similar side effects. So yes, I was assigned a different psychiatrist. She said I could try different medication, which had similar side effects. But at that point, I was like, no, you know what? Everything's going to end up being the same. So I just left it. I was like, well, I've made it this far. I'll just find different coping skills. I was just really anxious about my thesis because up to then I had had assignments that deadlines were Sunday at midnight, and I would just give it my all for, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not get up from my desk. And given the assignments usually did well, which does not help the system, but I knew that I couldn't do that with my thesis. I knew I couldn't do it in 2 days. And I started looking into tools for people with ADHD and what helps and what not. I tried so many things. I tried the Pomodoro technique. It was lovely. I fell in love with it. It worked for 2 weeks. I tried outlining my day hour by hour. It worked for 1 week. And the one that still works for me, mainly, is body doubling. I found a friend who worked from home, and we were able to work together through video, which was really helpful.
And I guess the funny question here is, how many notebooks did you have during that thesis period?
It was chaos. I think the thing that I had the most was sticky notes with notes on them and glued to all these different papers and yeah,
So a lot.
a lot.
And you mentioned that they offered you both medication and coaching, and the medication didn't work. Did you try coaching as well?
Well, I filled out some questionnaires, but apparently I was not unwell enough to qualify for coaching. Uh,
Wow.
but also, I think what played a part in that was that I didn't know myself and my symptoms well enough. And I think I must have downplayed some things. That it's okay, I can do this, which I still do sometimes. So I think that's why I didn't get that. But on the flip side, I am doing ADHD coaching now through Brain in Hand, which was really good.
And what do you find very useful about that?
I think it's forcing me to see that it's okay to use these coping skills and tools because I'm so used to being on the other end. Being in a mental health charity and helping people with mental health problems, it's kind of my default. Oh, I know all these tools that you can use and I can tell you what to do. I find it difficult using them myself. So I think that's what's helped, really.
It basically gives you accountability in a way. It's kind of like the body doubling, right? It helps you having a sounding board where there are things that you could try. It gives you the accountability, but it also helps processing what's going on in your head with somebody else, which I think for many of us that are neurodivergent is really helpful because we get stuck into our own head. The things, they go round and round in circles, and we have this 1,000 tabs open at the same time, and we're like, okay, which one do I listen to? Do I listen to this one, that one? And having somebody to talk to, and somebody that is able to, like, gently nudging us towards something, sometimes it can be extremely helpful. Yeah. Completely understand. And the other thing that I wanted to ask, because we've had our initial call when you talked to me about your life, and you've had multiple careers, and I would like for you to tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. And since you mentioned our initial chat, I really want to say that afterwards I was thinking about for days because it's rare for me to kind of just communicate freely and a bit chaotically. And it was weirdly the first time that I consciously thought afterwards, so that's unmasking. After all this time, I was like, oh, so yes, now I see the difference. It's clear as day.
And let's stay for 1 second on that, because I think it's really powerful for people to hear this. What was it specifically for you that felt like this is unmasking? This is what it means.
Well, I knew you had ADHD. So immediately I was like, okay, so there'll be no judgment because you will just get it. So if I get stuck, if I break blank, if I'm moving around, if, I forget your question, I'll be fine. You'll understand. So that takes off any pressure to really try and focus and really try and remember. I think that's the difference. So you feel really comfortable and free and just, talking. It's sometimes I know is very chaotic, and I can understand as I'm talking that it's like, oh my God, I'm not making any sense. Stop it.
I don't know if you've listened to the first episode of the podcast. Like, my best friend, she is ADHD as well, and we have a third friend that she's neurotypical. And sometimes we realize that the two of us are going like completely crazy. Like, we're talking about 6 different topics in 2 minutes. And she just chips in and she's like, I've lost you guys. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, but you mean it was so linear to us? But it's not. And this is it. It's like when you find your neurokin and you realize that, yeah, they get it. It doesn't matter how many times I jump back, forward, she gets me or they get me. And it's brilliant because most of our time, I feel we spend it performing an idea of what we think people expect from us, what we think a normal person should be. And I'm like literally using the quote marks, the normal, because there is no normal, but this is what we've grown up to experience, right? It's the idea that you have to be in a certain way to be functional, to be in the society, to be a professional. And all of a sudden, when you find that person that is exactly like you, you're like, I don't have to perform. It's brilliant. Yeah. So I'm glad that
Exactly.
I gave you this feeling, because this is exactly what I wanted. So it makes me feel like it's really validating for me as well. So thank you. So I'll go back to my original question, which is your multiple careers, because I found it fascinating.
Yeah. So went from initially I studied beauty therapy and cosmetology, and after back of that I delved into makeup artistry. Then I did baking. Well, I studied to become a pastry chef actually. I did because of course, you don't half-ass these things.
Why not?
Yeah. Then I worked for a while in that area, and then it was COVID. And also I had dermatitis on my fingers. It sounds like an excuse, doesn't it? So I had to change careers. And that's when I did my master's in psychology. And now on the side, I'm also learning coding. So before all this, before I got diagnosed, well, a little bit now as well, I did feel shame that people would judge me, that people will be like, well, why can't you stick with one thing? What's wrong with you? And although that is less now, I still have that little thought in my head, well, what will people think and stuff? But as a friend really well put it, was like, well, you're living your life. Nobody else is living your life. Just do whatever you want. They'll talk anyway. So, yeah, but it still makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
And is it just being in your head that shame, or did somebody ever made you feel that way?
No, nobody's ever said anything. So it's just in my head.
And I like what your friend said, the part like you're living your life, nobody else is living your life. There is a song that I always go back to when I feel that same shame. And when I feel that something that I'm doing, like my RSD, it's like really kicking. And it's a song by Depeche Mode. And there is this part that says, try walking in my footsteps. Keep the same appointments I take. You'll stumble in my footsteps. And it's brilliant because, we put a lot of shame into what we do. But in reality, like, try to get anybody else to try and do what we did. And I don't think they could cope. Like, because under stress, we are amazing. Give us the calm and steadiness, and we are horrible, but under pressure, we are the best. Yeah, I think it's a very good advice. It's a very good friend, that one. You should keep it close.
I know I work so much better when I have a full day with loads of stuff to do. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'll get everything done. Yes, let's go.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly the same. Like, when I have lots to do, it feels like, probably because I have that urge, that there is a deadline, there is so much, there is that urge. It feels like there is clarity, rather than when I only have one task and I'm like, and what do I do with this? Like, where do I start? Like, do I have to finish today? All of a sudden, I'm useless. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. With all these careers and all these things that, again, to me, they are fascinating because I've always had the same career. Like, just now, I'm diversifying slightly. What have you learned in terms of what a safe work environment should look like, and what would make masking feel unavoidable in some spaces?
I think being able to talk freely about mental health is very important. I mean, not necessarily that you're going to talk with your colleagues about, all your struggles, and I guess I am in a field now where it's okay to talk about these things, but it's not everywhere. And I know that I'm in a bubble, and sometimes I forget that. But also, I think a major thing is when disclosing to feel that it's fine and that it's just another everyday conversation, and to not feel, well, I'd say I feel guilty anyway when asking for reasonable adjustments, so try to make it as guilt-free as possible. And masking can be unavoidable. I guess if somebody makes light of things that you do, if I don't know, I'm trying to think of a specific example. I've never had thankfully, any negative experiences around ADHD, but that's since I've been diagnosed. So I have no idea if anything occurred before and it just, went over my head. But yeah, and also RSD is very internal as well. So people may not be doing anything wrong, but you might just fear the rejection or the judgment. So it's hard.
And with your work now, you work with a mental health charity. Well, you see a lot of the ups and downs. And if you could give an advice to workplaces, the one thing that could help people at work with something really simple, what would that be?
I guess I think it would be good to not expect the employee to have all the answers. Like, I really struggle to come up with stuff that could help me, and it would help if employers already had kind of like a list, or that, they went off and did their research, and then there could be like a check-in every, some months and be like, how are you getting along with this? And do you need any help? But also specifying what the help looks like, because I have no idea. And I still struggle with thinking about adjustments, and there might be things out there that could be helpful, but I may feel guilty about asking for them or not know about.
And you've talked a lot about, people pleasing, the rejection sensitivity, and the fact that the ADHD, particularly in relation to relationships, it's hard because we tend to see, we tend to think, oh, do they like me? And that was the story that you shared. How was the understanding of your neurodivergence changed the way you relate to others or helped you set boundaries for yourself?
Well, it's helped me not just by itself, but I've also gone through counseling as well and through my studies in psychology. So that's really helped as well. It's helped me to understand that there are different perspectives on things, and I don't get so fixated on stuff that I don't get. For example, didn't understand how you could like text somebody and they might take, a day or two to respond. I was like, okay, they don't care. And that was that. But it's obviously not the case. I still don't fully understand it because I don't work in the same way. But I can now accept that there's a different way of being. It's hard not to take things personally. But as soon as you try and remove yourself out of the equation, that makes it easier. And try and put yourself in the other person's shoes and be like, okay, they might, be working. They might have this, they might have that. You have no idea at the end of the day. So chill.
Which is a good advice. It's just not always possible to chill, but
I know, it's so hard, but you maybe see the 5% through a text, maybe less, probably. And you have no idea what's going on in the background. Yeah, sorry, I don't have better advice. It's like distract yourself.
I guess the natural follow-up question is, how was your relationship with burnout in relation to work?
Well, I think I originally started burning out mid 2024, where I was like on the verge, and I think I narrowly escaped it. But then for about a year, I think I was skirting the line and not bouncing back completely. Something that gave me some of my energy back was doing something different outside of work, which was starting to learn how to code. Uh, but I probably burnt out anyway in April of 2025. And that was tough. And I don't think that I have fully recovered 100%. And I had read somewhere that neurodivergent burnouts take much longer to fully heal. It's hard because you want to feel productive in your free time, but also I don't think that really helps because then you feel guilty if you're not doing enough. And if you're doing enough, it's probably burning you out more. And if you're just chilling and watching TV, that feels like, my goodness, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. So it's a hard balance.
What do you do today to try and regulate?
I was taking on too much again before the holidays. But this time, I think I realized what I was doing. I could feel myself slowly getting more tired. And I was like, okay, you've got to cut out some things because this is not going to go well. And although I hated doing it because I don't like not finishing things, I put some things aside. I was like, you know what? It's okay. They're not, you don't have to do these things right now. You can do them in the future if you still want to, but it's okay. I slowed down, right down, doing maybe one productive thing in the day, but also doing other things, like more fun things in the day. And although I do still feel some guilt around that, I feel that it's okay for me, for my psyche that, okay, I'm doing something productive, I'm doing something fun, and I'm doing like maybe something that I need to do, like the dishes, and that makes me feel calmer.
You've chosen to be very open about neurodiversity on LinkedIn and through Women in Tech Accelerator. What felt empowering about that visibility and what still feels risky?
I'll start with the risky. What feels risky is the potential for any negative comments. I've never had any negative comments, but I've seen negative comments on other people, and I would really hate for that to happen. But of course, you can't avoid that forever. But I know that if I do get one, I'll obsess about it, and the RSD will just have a field day. On the flip side, I feel that it's empowering because this is me. This is how I like to be, and I shouldn't have to be any other way. So putting that out there immediately kind of signals it to everybody, and anybody who doesn't want to be involved, it isn't going to be, which works great both ways because I wouldn't want to be involved with anybody that doesn't care about inclusivity and, mental health and just being nice about things, I guess. Because in my head, it's like, this is not that hard, people. You just have to accept that people have different realities, people's brains work differently, and that's it.
And I guess we come to the part that I really like, which are the signature questions of the podcast. And the first one is my favorite, which is, how do you feel about chit chat and small talk?
Painful and boring. I'd much rather people tell me about their childhood trauma.
Yes, yes. Like, tell me the juicy part.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, small talk, I understand why it's necessary because people don't feel as comfortable as us to just delve into, oversharing. But yeah, it's like, how many times can you talk about the weather? Also, what do you do?
What did you do with the weekend? I think that the natural follow-up question is, do you have like a story when sometimes you overshared?
I've definitely done that. And it's funny because either while you're oversharing, while you're saying stuff, you're like, oh, I shouldn't be saying this, but you can't stop. Or the minute you've stopped talking, you're like, no. I think I found myself answering sometimes too honestly, to come to our questions like, "So how have you been?" or "How was your weekend?" And you can see eyes glazing over. And I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, okay, stop talking."
It's just like, no, they're not really interested.
Oh, this was just the, "Oh, how are you?" "Okay, yeah, how are you?" "Good."
Yeah.
Which took me a while to get used to here in England because I grew up in Greece and I moved here when I was about 30. And in my first job, when, it was a busy clinic and you'd pass by people all the time and they'd be like, "You okay? Yeah, you?" And I would be like, "Well, why aren't they responding?" I'd be like, "Oh, yes, I'm good. How are you?" And they wouldn't say anything. I was like, "Well, that's rude."
It took me ages to adjust to that too. It's like, he just walked away. Like, I was waiting for an answer. Like, I really wanted to know, how are you? Yeah, no, I feel that too. Another question that is one of the signature questions. What are some of your traits that you genuinely love about yourself? And what are the traits that you still really struggle with?
I actually like that I find lots of things interesting. I think life would be very boring with just one interest. I like that I am loyal to my people and that I feel things deeply. A trait that I really struggle with is time blindness. Even though I know I have it, in that moment, I just forget that I have it. And it doesn't matter what time I get up, I'll always be rushing to get out of the door. And it's just crazy. And ironically, in the past, I never ever used to be late for anything. I was the one who was always on time or early. And I absolutely hated people standing me up, which happened quite a lot. And now, unless it's, something very serious where I will definitely be on time, but I'll still be rushing, I'm usually that 5 minutes late, maybe 10, but 5 most probably, yes. Which is annoying, but also, I'm like, you know, it is what it is now.
It could be worse, right?
It could be half an hour.
Yeah. And it's funny because while you were saying that, like, I thought about myself and it's exactly the same thing. I've always been the one that was just bang on time or even early to any appointment. And I absolutely hated people that were late. I think after the diagnosis, part of the conscious unmasking, it's the fact that you relax a little bit and your trait of time blindness comes slapping you in the face. And it's like, that is it. This is why you were always early, because you were overcompensating. And you're like, it's fun.
Yeah, it's crazy how after diagnosis, all the symptoms just become worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because my husband was recently diagnosed as well. And I had warned him that this would happen. And he was like, oh my goodness, what is happening to me? I was like, it's just because your past masking is coming undone and you'll just have to find new coping skills. Take some time, but they ultimately work better.
And how is that relationship between the two of you, two neurodivergent individuals?
Well, we are a bit different in some respects and similar in others, but I don't think that I could be with a neurotypical person because I don't think that there'd be that understanding there. I do like that there's this innate understanding of, okay, yeah, I get it. Even if I might not experience it 100% the same, I understand why you're doing this or why you're thinking this way. So it gets a bit chaotic at times, but there's a lot of laughter and a lot of support.
I think the reason why I asked that is because my husband is very neurotypical. Like, he is the example of a neurotypical individual. And poor thing, like, he now also has, like, we don't have an official diagnosis yet for our son, but it's pretty obvious that he's on the spectrum. Like, we can see that. And we can see that he resembles a lot like me. So there are days, well, we're sitting on the couch and me and my son, like, we cannot stand still, not even for a second. And he's in the middle and he looks defeated. He just looks like, why have I gone through this? And that is hilarious per se. I think he's really patient and I really appreciate it of him. But yeah, he went through, like, being with me first, and now it's like having to the power of three with my son as well. So I always wonder what it would be to have a full house of neurodivergent individuals. Like, I really love to see that.
That would be pure chaos, I think.
Yes.
With not sitting still, you reminded me of I was in the car in the back, 3 people in the back going somewhere, and for the first 10 minutes, I could not sit still because I was looking for this and looking for that and taking this off, and a colleague of mine was next to me. I was like, "I'm so sorry. I will sit still in a minute." I was getting on my nerves.
Yeah, because we're very aware of what we do now. Like, things that before were just like the way we are. Now we are super conscious and we're like, oh my God, what are they thinking about it? I want to thank you for sharing all of this, but I guess one question that I wanted to ask is, how are you today? How has it been for you, the journey of your diagnosis and post diagnosis up until the point you are at right now?
I think there are still times that I might find out something new, or when I'll finally stop downplaying, things and be like, okay, okay, so this is something that I struggle with. But overall, I'm much more at peace with myself, kinder to myself, and more accepting of myself. For example, as I mentioned earlier, I used to do stuff very close to the deadline. I still do it, but now I know that I'm going to do it. So there's no guilt beforehand, you know? Like I did a college course 2 years ago. I knew my lessons were on Thursday. So I was like, okay, I'll be doing my homework on Wednesday, the day before. And that's fine. And it was the first time, it was after diagnosis, it was the first time that I got to experience that. And I was like, oh, this is new. So you can plan for the last minute thing. And my husband was like, what are you doing? Like, well, I know I'm going to do it then anyway, so why freak out beforehand? Just not plan anything for that day and it'll be fine.
And was it fine?
It was.
I like this because, it shares that you finally feel most like your true self. And there is less judgment. There is more self acceptance and self love, if we want to go there. I guess my final question is for someone who's listening and feels like they're still performing a version of themselves to survive. What would you want them to hear?
That it's okay to be who you are, and it's hard to find people to relate to, especially as adults, and to make friends, but it's worth it keeping your boundaries and being like, you know what? No, I won't accept this. Or no, I don't want to have to mask until you find somebody who you do feel comfortable with, because that'll make it worth it.
Thank you so much, Gwen, for sharing your story with us. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Naomi.
The Spacious Brain podcast will come back soon with a new episode and new stories to share. So stay tuned and follow me now, before you forget.